Are you guys looking for a roasting pan? Well, I may have found a good one just in time for the holidays, made entirely of stainless steel, including the thick gauged roasting rack coming in at under $45. I'm going to show you guys why you need a roasting pan, and not just for the holidays, but as standard cookware for your kitchen. So let's dive in. But I gotta be honest with you guys, I never thought I would need one for my kitchen. After hosting a couple of holidays, you quickly start realizing you should invest in one. And then when you finally do and you use it year round, you really understand what you were missing. Now originally, I had my sights set on an all-clad model. Well, I quickly lowered my expectations, and then I was looking at a Cuisinart model that looked really promising, but it was never in stock, and I felt like it was too expensive for what I needed it for, because I don't use a roasting rack all the time, I use it occasionally. Well, after browsing Amazon for days and honestly buying a couple and returning them because either A, the pan was really thin and flimsy and warped extremely easily, or B, the gauge on the roasting rack was pretty light duty with some questionable welds, and I knew it wasn't going to survive. Well, I can tell you guys, after returning 4 or 5 of them, I finally found a good one. And I'm happy to say that TeamFar, I know the name's kind of weird, but TeamFar's 15-inch roasting rack did the trick for me, and I think it's an incredible value. So let's dive into the categories and talk about the specifics. Okay, now let's talk about materials. As my intro said, it's made entirely of stainless steel. Which type stainless steel or which grade of stainless steel, I have no idea. And there's no way of really telling because the manufacturer or the seller did not disclose that information, which makes me think it's probably a lower grade of stainless steel. It's definitely not 1810, and I'm sure it's not 18.8, so it's probably 18.0 or even lower. Now, if you guys don't know the different types of stainless steel grades, I kind of discussed this on my last video where I did a review on the Amazon commercial 3-ply stainless steel skillet, and I talked about how Amazon skillet is only an 18.8 grade versus the all-clad, which is an 1810. Now, those two grades are pretty common in the food industry, and in my personal opinion, you can't get any better than 1810. But 18.8 is a really good, decent, middle-of-the-road grade for stainless steel. There's also something called 18.0, which is like kind of like the cheapest stainless steel that you can get for the food industry, and then there's even cheaper ones, but I have no idea what this grade is. And if you're also wondering why stainless steel, why not get an aluminum roasting pan, or I don't even think they make a cast iron, that'd be really heavy and expensive, but you know, some other material. Well, I have my video specifically talking about cast iron, carbon steel, and stainless steel, where I kind of go over the pros and cons of each one. So if you're interested in different types of skillets or different types of cookware, those 3 are the most professional. So in short, stainless steel makes sense for a roasting pan, and I think it's the perfect choice. And then finally, if you don't know the fundamentals of stainless steel, I have a video on that too. So check out my previous videos somewhere over here, and hopefully you guys find them informative, because in this video, I'm not going to get into the specifics. So if you have specific questions about material or different types of cookware, check out my other videos. Now, with all that being said, it's still a really good product. Although the materials are questionable, I have had it for over a year now, and I haven't experienced any rust. So whatever stainless steel they're using, it's probably on the cheap end, or at best, middle of the road, but it seems to be holding up pretty well. Okay, now let's talk about features and quality. So as I said earlier, this is a 3-piece set. The manufacturer or the seller includes this heavy gauged roasting rack. And yes, it's also made out of stainless steel. I really like this roasting rack, and it stood out to me because all the other ones that I returned either had a really thin gauged roasting rack or the welds were very questionable. I'm happy to report that this one has pretty decent welds, and the gauge is fairly thick, at least much thicker than those other cheap ones. It has a slight V shape in the middle, and the angle of attack is pretty good, your food or your proteins, your chicken, your meat, your beef, your ribeye, whatever it is that you're trying to roast, sits pretty nicely on this rack. It does also feature 2 legs and handles to pick it up, and I like that it is raised. I mean, when it does sit on the roasting pan, you are pretty elevated, which is a good thing. The next thing that the seller or manufacturer includes is what they call a vegetable rack, but really it's just a standard wire rack. Here's the wire rack right here, and again, it's pretty decent with a fairly large gauge. It does have the standard legs that help you raise or elevate your food slightly, and honestly, there's nothing really too crazy about this wire rack. It is a standard wire rack that you typically would find, and I am glad that they included it, but I have a ton of these, so it was not necessarily a deal maker or breaker for me. The pan is 4 inches deep, and again, it's supposed to be made out of stainless steel. It says so in the back. See? Stainless steel. I told you guys. But in all fairness, it is made out of stainless steel. I don't know the grade, just like I said earlier, but it is pretty heavy duty. I do like the handles. The handles are fairly large, and they do elevate over the pan, giving you a nice firm grip. The rivets on the handles are pretty well made, and after a year of usage, the handles have not in any way, shape, or form became loose, which is a good thing. The handles on some previous products that I've returned, I mean, you can really tell, you can really feel it. As soon as you open up the box and you grab the pan, you're like, whoa, this thing's flimsy, it's wobbling a bit, or what's even worse is you go to grab it and you feel like you can bend the pan. Well, yes, you can. I can kind of feel some wiggle, and I can probably break it or snap it if I really did try. But I mean, you would have to want to bend it for it to bend, right? And that's my point. The other pans, I mean, I felt like if I dropped it, they were gonna split in half. The inside of the pan spans about 16 inches, but the total length of the entire pan, and I'm assuming this is from handle to handle, comes in at a little bit over 17 inches and a quarter. As far as the width goes, it comes in at 11.5 inches. And of course, the pan is 4 inches deep. So this is plenty big for a Thanksgiving turkey or a roast, a beef roast, or maybe even a ribeye roast. And if you wanted to add some vegetables or potatoes underneath and let the meat's juices just marinate into the potatoes or vegetables, you can easily do that with this roasting pan. Now the roasting rack comes in at just under 14.5 inches in length, 10 inches wide, and it sits at 5.5 inches in height. Another thing to note, and this is something that really irritated me on the other crappy products, the legs themselves are 5 inches in width. And that's really important because you want to have a nice stable roasting rack sitting on top of this pan. And then finally, if you guys are interested in the standard wire rack or the vegetable rack, it comes in at 13.5 inches in length, 8 3/4 inches in width, something that you would typically find almost anywhere, but it's cool that they do include it. Now, another thing that I want to point out as far as quality is concerned, a good roasting pan, a professional roasting pan, should be capable of searing something on top of the stovetop and then going into the oven without warping. Now, this pan unfortunately warps. It does. I have a gas stovetop, and when I sear anything with this pan, it does warp. Later on, I do have some B-roll where I cooked a beef roast, and I did sear it first on the stovetop and then finished it in the oven, and then I made a gravy out of the fond or the sticky bits. You can see that the pan was warping. It was. And I think that's due to going back to the materials. It's not the best grade stainless steel, and for sure it's not 3-ply. So, it is what it is. I would say that if you're doing heavy searing, don't sear with this pan. Use a skillet for that. And then, if you're just gonna roast or put it in the oven, it's fine. Once you put it in the oven, it's good to go. It's just when it has that heat on the bottom, the pan can't handle it. Now, it's not that bad. I've seen pans that have had it way worse, where they've completely twisted and warped. This pan doesn't have that issue. It does kind of warp on the bottom and becomes uneven, but overall, it holds itself pretty well. Now, for me, I don't care. I have a gas stovetop, so, who cares, right? I can still sear and put it in there and everything's good. But for you guys out there to have an induction stovetop or even an electric stovetop, it may not be the best pan for you. And unfortunately, you're probably going to have to get something a little bit more higher quality. Maybe not all clad quality, but something more thicker, more beefier. So that's just my 2 cents. Now let's talk pricing. As of today, you can get this product for $39.99. I think I bought it at that same exact price a year ago. I do want to add a little disclaimer. I think they have it advertised at like $45, and they slice it and they tell you they're offering it for much cheaper. And that is true. Sometimes I do see it at full price, but oftentimes you will find it at $39.99, $40. Now here's a special little note. Now if you're looking to get this for the holidays, unfortunately, the manufacturer usually lowers the price pretty significantly during Prime Day, but they do sell out really, really quick. So I don't know if it's worth waiting for Prime Day. On Prime Day, you can find this for $30. If you need it for the holidays and you don't want to risk it selling out during Prime Day, then I think the $39.99 price tag is pretty decent. Now, another note is after the holidays, usually after New Year's, the manufacturer again will usually cut the price back down to $29.99 for a little while, which makes sense. He's probably trying to get rid of his extra inventory. So pricing, I think, is very fair. Even at full price at $45, this thing's a steal. If you can get it at $40, that's even better. And if you can get it at $30, I mean, how can you go wrong? Okay, now I wanted to demonstrate just how great this roasting pan is. So I made 2 things for you guys. The first one, in honor of Thanksgiving, I didn't have a turkey, so I didn't do a turkey. I wasn't gonna, pre-game it before Thanksgiving. That would just be wrong. But I did do a chicken. So I did a whole chicken, I roasted it, added some potatoes and vegetables, and I just let it kind of like slowly roast in the oven. And I really just wanted to keep it juicy, right? Keep the chicken juicy. I hate dried chicken, so that was a big thing for me. I think the chicken was in there for like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, something like that. So more than enough time for the potatoes to cook. And then of course we added our vegetable. I also ended up making some traditional Lebanese baba ganoush with the chicken. Got the eggplant, roasted it on top of the stovetop, and then did my thing. Now for the second dish, I did do a beef roast. Just wanted to kind of illustrate that you can do both, no problems. With the beef roast, I did make a gravy out of the fond. That's one more thing that I want to demonstrate with this roasting pan. I wanted to sear something on the stovetop and then finish it in the oven, and then at the end get all those sticky bits and make something out of it. Everything came out delicious. Enjoy the B-roll. So cleanup is pretty straightforward. It's just like cleaning any other stainless steel cookware. If you have a brush or a scraper, you should be good to go. If you're having trouble with sticky bits, check out my previous video where I kind of give you guys some tips and secrets to cleaning a sticky mess. And a Dawn power washer is a pretty handy item to also have around if you do need it. But basically that's it for cleanup. It's pretty straightforward and you shouldn't have too much of a problem. Alright, so what are my final thoughts on this roasting pan? Well, I think as a budget-friendly pan, it's a heck of a deal. And really guys, if you're occasionally roasting something, this is the pan for you. Trust me, I went through like 5 of them, and as of today, this is a good pan. If you're looking for something that's a little bit more name brand, then go with the Cuisinart. I would say just, be careful with the pricing. Sometimes Cuisinart goes crazy and they'll list it for like 80 bucks. I don't think it's worth 80 bucks. I think it's around 50 to 65. I think that's a decent price for the Cuisinart, but you are paying for that name brand. And then if you're like roasting all the time, if you're in a professional kitchen, if you're a pro with the restaurant, you're not gonna be considering either of these, truth be told. Go get yourself a 3-ply all-clad or something even better and you're gonna be happy, right? So for me, this is holding up really well. I don't have any rust issues so far. I do have minor warping, and I talked about that, especially when searing, so it's not that great for searing. I would never use it on an induction stovetop or an electric stovetop, but because I have gas, I don't care, right? I'm gonna keep using this thing until it completely fails on me, and as of right now, after a year of usage, it all looks good to go. So when it does fail on me, I'll probably get the all-clad. That's it for me, guys. I hope you guys found this video informative, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care, everybody. Hey, everybody. How'd you guys like that last video? Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified on my next video. And if you can, please share with your family and friends. I would really appreciate it. Here's some more content that I think you guys are really gonna enjoy. Check them out. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care.